Session 7B, Continuation of Ethics. In our last session, we defined the meaning of ethics. And then we began to look at some of the strategies and why ethics is really important for nursing as well as medicine. We also looked at the beginning of the Belmont Report here in this country and why it was important. In this session, we're going to look at some of the studies that were done on vulnerable population to give you some idea as to the importance of the Belmont Report. As we discussed, the purpose of this World Medical Association when they came together is to serve humanity by endeavoring to achieve the highest international standards in medical education, medical science, medical art, medical ethics, and healthcare for all people in the world. So let's look at this historical overview of the Declaration of Helsinki. It was a set of principles that were to expand those of the Nuremberg Code. And the Nuremberg Code, if you remember, we discussed the atrocities that took place by the Nazis in Germany and why this Nuremberg Code came about. So the 8 principles are designed for the medical community to use regarding human subjects during research. The Declaration was the first significant effort of this medical community to regulate itself. Their mission for physicians to safeguard the health of people using their knowledge to fulfill this mission, and physicians shall act only in the patient's interest when providing care. Thus, what came out of this was the beginning of the Institutional Review Boards, or the IRB, as well as the Human Research Ethics Committee, or the HREC. So these 12 basic principles. They stated that biomedical research must conform to scientific principles. The design has to be clearly formulated. Research has to be conducted by competent personnel. The objective is proportionate to the inherent risk. Respect for privacy has to be made. Hazards are predictable and explained. Ensure the accuracy of results. Human beings must be informed of the research, and incompetent subjects have to have consents from legal guardians. And protocol contain a statement on ethical consideration. In addition, physicians, they said, are free to use new diagnostic and therapeutic measures. Potential benefits and hazards must be compared against the present method. Patients have to be assured of the best proven diagnosis. Patients also have a right to refuse any kind of research, and if consent is not obtained, validation is required. And physicians may combine research with medical care. In the non-therapeutic biomedical research, or the non-clinical aspects, it said that a physician's duty to remain the protector of life and health of patients. Subjects should be volunteers. In other words, they should volunteer for the research. The investigator should discontinue the study if there is harm or hazards to the subjects. The interest of science should never take precedence over the well-being of any subjects. So now let's look at some of the research that were taking place here in this country. One was Tuskegee Syphilis Study, a 50-year study that took place here in Macon, Georgia. And started in 1932 with a group of men that weren't able to really discern for themselves what was best for them. And in 1933, a group of physicians got together and they gave these men mercurical ointment, telling them that it would cure their syphilis. In 1938, penicillin was discovered, and in 1940, the use of penicillin was available and could have really cured many of these men in the studies. However, they were not able to receive it. In 1946, you saw the death rates for untreated syphilis increased, and in 1955, advanced syphilitic lesions were beginning to be seen, and therefore death was caused. In New York, there was a study that took place over 20 years. It was an experimental study, and the subjects this time were mentally handicapped children. Their purpose, they wanted to really see they wanted to determine the infectivity of infectious hepatitis by administering hepatitis B virus. It wasn't the vaccine that we know today. It was the live virus. So I asked you, was this an ethical thing to do? And that was here in the United States. And the Belmont Report was in 1979. So it was just under that guidelines. But the Helsinki was there. And then in 2001, we had an experimental study produced by Johns Hopkins University where they took healthy subjects, and their purpose was to understand the pathophysiology of asthma. And they used, to do this, an inhalation of ganglionic blockers. And you and I know how those can work. And what took place, one young man lost his life. Was this an ethical thing to do? So I asked you to think about this. And this was in 2001 when we had the Belmont Report, we had the Declaration of Helsinki, and we had the Nuremberg Code. So why would this take place? So the ANA gave us some research guidelines. They said that nurses must be informed of research, that there must be freedom of risk or harm. Patients have a right to privacy and dignity. They have a right to anonymity, and nurses have the obligation to protect our patients, and voluntarily the consent must be obtained. So institutional review boards, or the IRB, is something that we need to think about because we go to these meetings quite often. These IRB is a category of members of attorneys, laypersons, clergy, nurses, and physicians, as well as, I should say, community people as well. The responsibility is to ensure the subjects remain free of risk or harm. So with that said, let's look at some ethical theories that we have sort of provided practice by, and it's called the normative branch. Its ethics are concerned with determining whether an action is right or wrong. Normative ethics attempt to develop a set of rules or norms that govern human conduct. It deals with what people should believe to be right or wrong, unlike descriptive ethics, which deals with what people actually believe to be right and wrong. When most people use the term morality or ethics, they almost always mean normative ethics, for it is this branch that is concerned with telling us how we ought to live our lives.